Good morning, everyone. And for those who are watching us on a replay or on a different time zone, good afternoon or good evening. And for those who are new in our platform, I just wanted to introduce myself shortly. My name is Marylen. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS, and we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to thrive and to transform in all aspects by co creating, contextualizing, and customizing programs with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, including Petronas, Sony Mobile, PruLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, Legato, and Shell, to name a few. And the reason why we are organizing several interventions, including this interview, is because we would like to help leaders and organizations who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a hybrid team, and those who are afraid that they can't keep their team or their business. And so, to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead more effectively in any situation, do join us in these interventions. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest. Palani. I would always call him Palani. We were classmates before. And he has over 36 years of experience in developing organizations, its leaders, and staff through strategy formulation, culture building, and change management to build future ready performing teams that can succeed in the digital era. This is a very short introduction. I'm sure it's not really like giving so much justice based on his experience. But in just very short introduction, I'm sure you would all agree that it really tells how much we will be able to learn today's session. Hi, Palani.
Hi, Marylen. Hi. Good morning. And
Good.
thank you for making me look much younger than I am. We were classmates just to set the
Yes.
stage right, not in school. Marylen is much younger than me, okay? We were on course together.
Yeah, we were like that shows how continuous learner we both are. We were classmates. I didn't finish that statement. I want to make you look young, as you've mentioned. In the course called X Factor, and we were like attending that program on a weekend on a Holy Week. Like
Yeah,
that's how dedicated we are to be able to serve our clients, isn't it, Palani?
yeah, that's true. His learning is always a joy. Yeah,
Yeah, true, true. So let's get started so our audience can get so much out of this conversation.
okay,
So to
okay.
start with,
Mm,
I'd like you to share with us your leadership experiences.
mm,
If you do have like influencers that you look up to, and
mm.
probably your own leadership styles, if you have a favorite leadership styles that you
Okay.
can mention to us.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity to share my limited experiences with the audience. I wanted to say that I'm an accidental leader. I did not go through the hierarchy of middle and then senior management. I was thrust into a CEO role, so it was all full of trial and error.
Mhm.
History speaks. I probably made fewer mistakes, therefore I have survived so far, right? And the interesting thing about leadership is there is no one formula that works. There are some guides we use, and I am influenced particularly by two personalities, well known to everybody in the world. One is Gandhi, and the other one is Nelson Mandela. Now, each has influenced me in a particular way. Gandhi, of course, both I know through movies, right? So Ben Kingsley in the Gandhi movie, and I particularly remember their fight against the British, especially with the salt. And all they
Mhm.
did was when they stood there, got hit by the police, came back, bandaged, and ran back. that in itself is not as remarkable as Gandhi leading it from the front. And that was one of the key points about leadership I picked up. You got to lead from the front. You can't send soldiers out to die. So that was his most inspirational motivation from me from a leadership perspective that I've always used. And the other one is Nelson Mandela. After 27, 29 years in incarceration, he comes out. Everybody thinks he's going to wipe out the white race. But what he does the exact opposite. He incorporates them into his team because they know more about running a government than he did from the outside. And then he builds the country from it, going past the naysayers. So that's one of the things I learned in leadership. You cannot make everybody happy. You need to make sure that you know what you're doing and have the team believe that you can do that. And finally, I have realized leadership is a very lonely journey. So it's better spent with friends. So you need to be friends with the people you work. Friendship, relationship, built on trust and understanding helps to go a long way. So these are my guiding principles. Very simple. These are basically humanistic. Leaders are not some exceptional people outside of the human race. So this is what has guided me all along.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your influencers to us. And that actually reminds me, you've mentioned about Nelson Mandela, and I just recently saw a post by another friend whom I've
Mm,
interviewed as well, Harvey Ong,
yeah,
recently, and it was a reflection by his daughter around
mm,
what Nelson Mandela has done in the past. He has the power, but he and that's the comment I shared with him, right? Um, n- that you cannot really abuse the power. So it's really upon the person who has the power on using it for the better good of most people,
correct.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
Adding
which is
value.
really good because she's very young. She's, I think, a teenager, and she made
Yeah,
that comment, sharing around the story of Nelson Mandela.
yeah.
And again, that's what you've mentioned, right? He focused on how others will benefit from, from, from
Working together,
leadership, from
forgetting the
working.
past.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And like creating a greater good in a larger
correct.
group, like what you've
Yeah,
mentioned, which is
yeah.
really
True.
like, I mean, the gist of why you are a leader. And
Yeah,
and nowadays it's really about stepping up into like leadership. Like we need more leaders who will do good to others, right? Like
yeah,
you mentioned in your story that you didn't really like go through the ladder, but you've actually learned from your experience, and everyone can be a leader, right? Which is good
yes,
news for everyone. And
yeah.
having said all of these, you've also wrap it up with how friendship is important. And again,
Mm,
leadership is all about building relationships, right?
yeah,
And
true.
so that leads me to my next question: what is leadership for you?
Okay. So since I run my own group of companies under the name of Lifelong Learning,
Mm-hmm.
we, together with my partners who are actually my brothers and sisters in this business together, we have a belief. I think, and I'm very convinced that as leaders, we must create the belief in the team.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they're not going to stay there. If every day this is a tick in the box where I clock in and I clock out, there's not going to be commitment. So the creating the belief in the team that what we are going to do together, despite the adversity and the odds, ties people together. That's the first thing. They must have the belief. Next, the belief must also be tied to the fact that it's a worthy cause. If
Mm-hmm.
the cause is not worthy, no matter how strong the belief is not going to work. So at Lifelong Learning Academy, our cause is to help individuals in the workforce who
Mm-hmm.
have missed the education both
Mm-hmm.
to upgrade themselves. We feel that
Mm-hmm.
it gives them self-esteem, gives them identity. The children's children have certificate, but they don't have because they were working to put the children through school. Now they can get a certificate, and this empowers them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
finally, the leaders must create an environment where people work collaboratively because there's
Yes.
so many challenges. But if the people who work together are not working collaboratively, the challenges just become worse. And this is why I think leaders create the vision for a worthy cause, to enable people to work collaboratively to achieve it. It's as
Exactly.
simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love how you enumerated what leadership is for you. And again, that's all about vision, purpose,
Mm.
and really like collaborating with each other.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation I had with the group COO of Air Asia, where he said that if cash is king, then collaboration is queen, right?
Yeah.
And
I
this is
totally agree. Yeah.
and this is quite the same with how you've actually like mentioned it, like collaborating to execute and achieve the goals that you have within your
Mm.
organization, right?
Yeah.
And also, before I proceed to the next questions, for those who are watching us live, this is an invitation for everyone to please feel free to join our conversation. And this is not just me asking Palani and sharing with us his experience and his leadership capabilities, but also like sharing this moment with you when if you have like any questions or comments, or what are you getting out of this conversation, right? Speaking of that, thank you, Jaya Raj. I
Ah,
hope
Diana is my good friend.
as a leader, we must treat others the way we want to be treated. Yes, that's true. And that's also like where I would say like Palani is coming from, that, friendship is more important than the position or the leadership post that you will
Yeah.
have, right? So
True.
thank you
True.
for that. And that leads me to my next question. From your experience as a corporate leader and
Mm.
working with, corporate leaders as well, what
Mm.
would you say would be the top three problems that they normally face?
Okay, so before I go on to the slide, I want to set the context. So I
Mm-hmm,
started my career in 1986 in
mm-hmm,
consulting, then went on to run my own manufacturing business. And the last 22 years, I'm running my own business while
mm-hmm,
consulting for other clients.
mm-hmm.
Companies can be different, countries can be different,
True.
languages can be different, cultures can be different,
Mm-hmm,
but essentially, I only see three challenges in any business.
mm-hmm.
And these three constantly repeat in many different forms. It's like Medusa's head with a snake. You cut one head or one snake off and another one comes on. But the variation is the same. And I boil it down to three things:
Mm-hmm,
the people and the talent in the organization, the skills and the mindset, the cultural DNA of
mm-hmm,
these people and the organization working together, and the leaders who are able to tie this together.
mm-hmm.
These are the three challenges of any leader, and I assume this has been happening ever since people got together to do things collaboratively, right?
True.
So these are the challenges: leaders leading, people behaving and acting, and the mindset and the culture of the organization. These are the three things that we focus on as the biggest challenges.
Let me add that.
Yeah,
Is it the right time?
yes, correct. This
Yeah,
is
to
that.
share. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is exactly what you just shared just now,
Mm,
um around mindset, talent management,
yeah,
and of course now that we have gone through the pandemic, it's
yeah,
really also about leading in the digital era, right?
correct, correct, right.
And
So
I've been always hearing around the it's interesting, like a lot of people have lost their job, and yet I've been hearing like how difficult it is for recruitment to get the right
yeah,
people.
yes,
So
yes,
would you want to elaborate more
yeah. So
on our slide?
okay, so on the left is traditional leadership challenges.
Mm-hmm,
All right. So on the right is the digital era challenges. What do I mean by the digital era? Everybody has different definitions, right?
mm-hmm,
So the number one factor in the digital era is the gig economy. It
mm-hmm,
started long ago with Uber, and
mm-hmm,
now it is ubiquitous across all industries, right?
mm-hmm,
We know the common cliche sayings: the largest transport company doesn't own any vehicle, the largest hotel business, Airbnb, doesn't own any hotel.
Mm-hmm.
This is what is creating the gig economy. People can work without really working 9 to 5. So that's the big challenge. Next,
Mm-hmm.
reinventing the business. Business is about people working together. And
Mm-hmm.
now in the gig economy and working remotely, people don't actually work physically together. So how do we solve problems and challenge the way we can do better? This becomes a challenge in the new normal, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
previously I could sit with you and discuss the problem. Now I have to sit far away and not even here, maybe in another continent, and we had to solve the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other thing, which is the major challenge in the digital era, is the amount of knowledge, amount of content, amount of information we need to process. And this,
Mm-hmm.
I call it the ABCD of the new normal. What do I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that? A refers to agility, design thinking, anything that is related to rapid response to the changes because technology
Mm-hmm.
moves so fast. Then B refers to blockchain and all the other new technologies that is democratizing the way the software world works. The person with the greatest idea cannot do it without the person with the simplest way to get it done, and there are many different technologies available. Then, finally, in the cloud and cyber security, we have all had these personal experiences or knowledge of disasters from scam, SMS, security, stolen identities, and everything else. But the cloud and cyber security is inevitable. That's where users are going to for all kinds of solutions. Finally, using data and AI to make decision making, because the amount of data that comes our way, it is impossible to manually process it. While
Mm-hmm.
Excel still works, is a foundation, it's insufficient. So the leadership challenge, getting the right people with the mindset, leading them in the gig economy to reinvent the business with the new ABCD. So all that I put it into one slide because that's the challenge we are looking at.
Yes, and somehow you've actually answered my next question on what the next normal is, right?
Uh,
Um, you mentioned again, like I'm flashing in the summary, like the top
mm,
three problems, which is of
yeah.
course you mentioned. Oh, my my
Yeah, correct,
typing has
correct.
done
It was
some
there, attracting
yeah,
talent. Yeah,
talent management, attracting and retaining talent, the
yes,
mindset, of course, and the leadership in the digital
yeah,
um, era, right?
yeah.
And then you also mentioned how you actually generally define the next normal by
Mhm.
summarizing it with a gig economy,
Yes, this is the
uh,
challenge. Yeah,
inventing the business, the
yeah,
ABCD of the next normal, which is around agility. So
yeah.
thank you for really, like, and of course the day we've been hearing around working remotely, which has been always like a challenge for most people or
Yeah,
organization, right? Because
correct.
they have to work, like what you've said, they have
Mm.
to work from like different continents, you know, and
Time
not
zones and everything else. Yeah,
time zones and all those stuff, and they don't even see each other.
correct.
And they have to collaborate. And again, like what you mentioned earlier, collaboration will be
The
key in
key.
this,
Yeah,
right? In this digital era, as you
correct.
were saying. And so thank you for summarizing that with us. And before I ask you the next question, let
Mm.
me put on the summary of what you've shared around the next normal and
Mm.
read through. Like we are having like quite a lot of engagement here in LinkedIn. So perhaps this is a very good time to do a live because
Okay,
there's
sure,
quite a
sure.
lot of people who are joining us. So Tikli Un, he said that a leader should walk the talk, right?
Yeah,
Can you give
yes.
some examples?
Okay.
Yeah,
Hi,
please
Tigli.
go
Long
ahead.
time no see. I hope you're all right, and we'll catch up one of these days. I was going to cover the walk the talk in the next one or two
Next
questions
question.
that I'm going to talk about how to take this theory into action. So I will address those examples later, Tigli.
Thank you for that question, Tikli. And please wait for Palani's answer later on. And Prakash is saying hi to
Hi,
us.
hi, Prakash.
Hi,
Yeah,
Prakash. And another comment from Tikli, attributes of leaders are the same irrespective of culture, geography, environment. What do you think?
I
Definitely,
think,
right?
yeah, I think like I agree totally with Maryland. They are the same because it's all about people, not about anything else. And people are the same no matter what color of the skin, language, culture. I agree with that. I've seen that in my work in the region.
And Rachel says, I love how Mr. Palani closed the gap in
Thanks,
the
Rachel. Yeah,
lonely journey of leadership by building relationship.
yeah,
Yes, that's why I actually repeated that as well. So
yes,
thank you, Rachel, for highlighting that. And oh, we have like Anonymous here. He said, I'd love to get your thoughts or guidance for being a good leader, especially a younger one to slightly mature team. I think you will be able to address that as well in the
yes,
next
yeah.
questions.
In the next one, we're going to cover this, and I will
Yes.
try that. Yeah.
Wow, we have so much comment. You're so
Yeah,
famous,
thank
Palani.
you, thank you, thank you so much for the participation. Yeah,
Read
yeah,
through all of these before I proceed to the
yeah.
next. Creating a culture for achieving the mission. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
I
what you said.
agree with you, Prakash. Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes. And are we having more managers nowadays but less leadership? That's an interesting
Hello,
question.
Kung. Long time no see. I totally agree with you. We have a lot more managers than leaders.
Yes, and another one, basic principles of leadership will always remain, but the emphasis could change according to the situation we operate in. These
Yes,
days, it's all about dealing with uncertainty and disruptions triggered
agreed.
by technology, and that's what you just said around
The next
the
normal, yeah,
digital
yeah,
era,
digital
right?
era. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
and
digital era.
amazing. Thank you, whoever you are.
Yeah,
And Kay Sugumaran,
yeah, yeah. Sugu,
boomer.
yes.
Oh yes, the digital era again.
He's a
Constant.
tech expert in my community, so if he says that, that's true. Yes,
Yeah, tech-driven disruptions. Yes,
yes.
thank you.
Mm.
And yeah,
Oh, that
it's
was Umesh, the one
or
who said everything. Thanks, Umesh. Yeah,
and yeah, cool. Agree with your comments. So
yeah,
thank you so much
yeah,
for engaging with us. And I really appreciate keep those comments coming and
yeah,
we'll proceed to the next question, which is
yeah,
what do you believe is the role of learning, leadership and transformation in thriving the next normal? We've talked about the digital
yeah.
era, the problems, as well as how you define next normal and leadership. So now what?
Okay, so that's a great question, Marilyn, because traditionally leadership has been groomed in organizations through formal training,
Mhm.
often educational or knowledge is
Mhm.
associated with the ability to perform as leaders. Well,
Mhm.
there might be a correlation, but really there is a difference. So let me give you this example. Why do we ever attend training? And let me take something that is common to everybody. If
Yeah.
you attended a cooking class, Maryland,
Mhm.
tell me why you would, how would you measure the success of your attendance in the cooking class?
Probably with the taste of the food or the new the
Excellent.
new like learn or the new cuisine that I would
Yeah,
learn how to cook.
making a new dish, right? Same
Yes.
thing. If you go for a driving course,
Mhm.
if you get a license, it is a certification that you actually know how to drive on the road, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is why people learn. But unfortunately, leadership program is about sending people for knowledge in class, and then they're expected to do this on their own when they come back from the course. This has been the traditional leadership. I'm not saying all, but
Mhm.
mostly. So
Yes.
this is where the challenge comes in, right?
Mhm.
Because today, when we talked about the young talent,
Mhm.
they are not interested in learning in a particularly structured way. What do I mean by this? In my
Mhm.
era, I was the era old enough to move from Lotus 123 to Excel. If we
Mhm.
wanted to master Excel, we had to go to a class to learn Excel. and
Mhm.
then prepare this Excel spreadsheet. Right now, there is no need to go to a class. Google gives it to you for free. There is no training that you cannot get for free in the internet. So
Mhm.
knowledge is obtainable free.
Mhm.
No use sending somebody to an Excel class. You just need to say, hey, I need you to learn this. They will go and learn this. And the young talent, they have other interests. They want to learn things beyond their work. If you
Mhm.
make it possible for them, if you don't connect the cause and effect, what they learn need not be connected to what they need to deliver. And that's how talents work. The younger
Mhm.
people learn what they like, but they are still able to perform what you want because they have Google to support them. So the way of
Mhm.
learning is different. In
Mhm.
leadership, this becomes a major challenge, and we
Mhm.
have an approach to address that. So if you can show them my second slide. Okay, so this is how we have structured leaders in action as a way to learn. What we do is there are three segments. Okay, this is a three-segment module, right? So we have an objective with the organization. They want leaders to learn something. In this
Mhm.
particular case, we recommended to the client to combine leadership learning with organizational transformation.
Mhm.
Okay. So here I like to bring in the F1 analogy, which we just completed last weekend, right? You can have
Yes.
eight F1 cars. A great F1 car does not win you the race. A great driver with a not so great F1 car can still win the race. Why? Because driving skills matter as much, if not more, than the technology of the car. So the
Mhm.
F1 car is the technology in organizational transformation. The F1 driver is the leader making this transformation. So the way we structured this program, we run it through with the MIT Sloan Leadership Program, and we are happy to
Mhm.
run this with other people's content as well. We give
Mhm.
them the theory. They have a coaching session, whether in person or virtual, to see how the theory can be applied. They come into the face-to-face workshop, theory already covered. We are not going to waste contact time with knowledge. What we're going to
Mhm.
use the contact time is to actually define a live application of the project at the workplace as a leader. So the first phase could be craft the project for organizational transformation. Then they
Mhm.
go away, they have a coaching session to make the project better. They then go to phase two. Phase two is involving their team into the transformation. A leader can never work by themselves. They
Mhm.
need the team to work with them. They have to provide the leadership to the team. So they work with the team to say, now this is the idea for the project. How can we execute it? That's the focus of the second segment. So when they come back to the class, they're going to learn how they could have done it better. What can they learn from their peers? How can they get the team to be more motivated? Then they go off and execute. Finally, they come into the phase three of the face-to-face segment. They
Mhm.
show the results of what they have learned in this program and how it has benefited the organization. This is what we mean by leaders in action, learning how to act. It is not about knowledge, it's about execution and delivery. And this is really how leadership should be, because you can't go to the cooking class, read a menu, and then say, I can cook. And then
Mhm.
nobody will eat your food because you never cooked it for them. So here we're saying leaders who learn something must do it, and the doing part must be part of that development. And this is the best way for you to execute a leader's learning. So role of learning is so crucial in the digital era, but it is not going to be what historically it was. It has to
Mhm.
be learning and action together.
Mhm. Exactly.
Mm.
So.
So
Mhm.
go ahead and go, Mary.
Yeah. So like what you've shared again, the leaders have a huge role in, in training or in helping the development of their team, right? And again, it's also like what you've said, leaders in action. They have to get involved throughout the process, and it's
Mm.
not really just about the knowledge or the training that you provide for them, right? Because
Yeah,
again, like what you've said, in this era now, is that, like, you can actually get a lot of contents everywhere for free,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's really, how are you gonna put that together in terms of how will you actually like expect and execute those learnings into a reality, into the workplace, right? So
Mm,
I really love that part of how it's really like the best, I would say, like description of what blended learning is, and
mm, mm.
what learning is for. It's really to make use of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
After.
Otherwise, why go for a cooking class? Yeah, and
Exactly.
this also lends itself to the organizations who want to measure return on investment. And
True.
let me give you an example. I've
Mm-hmm.
been asked how much does a program like this cost. Then I'll
Mm-hmm.
say, pause, hold that question. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the output of this program. Let's say you put 20 leaders through this program, and each one saves you $500 every quarter
Mm-hmm.
because they are executing live projects at the
Mm-hmm.
workplace. And let's say the team saves $500.
Mm-hmm.
In a year, they save $2,000.
Okay.
10 people, 20 people in a class, you save $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, now they have learned the skill to continually improve over the next few years to continue saving money for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they save for 3 years. There's $120,000 savings from a one program. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are the CEO, my question to you then is how much do you think you would want to pay for this program? One, to minimally achieve 120,000. Two, to increase the 500 savings per quarter to
Mm-hmm.
1,000, 2,000, $3,000 savings. And that's where leadership is in action. And that's what leadership transformation is all about. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about, I have a Harvard Business School MBA. Okay, no offense to the Harvard Business School, but I'm saying I have done cooking classes, but not many people will eat my dishes because I haven't practiced cooking enough. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how it is. So this is the ROI of learning investment. We got to look at it totally differently from the way we used to look at it in the past.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. And
And
then you straight away measure the performance of the leader. I sent you
mhm,
for a program. I asked you to
mhm,
do this. You have delivered. You have not delivered. What are your areas for improvement?
mhm.
Yeah.
And so, have you asked these principle, or have you been using these principles as well in your own team?
Okay. That's another very good question. Let me take a sip before I answer that. That question sets the preachers apart from the practitioners
Mm-hmm.
because the preachers will tell you, the practitioners would have done it. In our case, we actually have done this, and I give you an example. So I have a operations manager called Louis Chong in my company.
Mm-hmm.
He started straight out of school with us as a youngster, and he went on to pick up new things. So I did the first KPI with him, and I said, listen, you have no background in technology. I would like you to lead my ERP design and implementation project. He said, boss, I don't know tech. I say, yeah, because you don't know tech, that's why I am giving you this skill so that you can expand the skill set. And
Mm-hmm.
then I said, I will coach him. So, of course, we didn't need to go through a formal program, but I was his regular contact for coaching.
Mm-hmm.
He worked through that. He actually executed it. Then he got the operations team to buy into it, train all of them, and made that work. Now, after 2 years, he's totally on his own,
Mm-hmm.
managing both operations and my ERP system, plus onboarding any new user without my intervention. Now, he went for the normal leadership courses in leadership, people management, decision making, those kind of modules that gave him the theory behind it. But the actual live ERP project that he managed by rejigging operations, rejigging systems, having the KPIs, making sure that he is able to deliver, has made him a leader using this model. If I did not use this model, it would be really a shame for me to recommend this as workable. So I have used this, and we have done this with many others in our organization as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your own case study, generally a case study for your organization on how you use ROI, or measuring
Yeah.
ROI when it comes to learning, right? And let me just flash some
That hopefully answers
comments again.
Tick Lee's question earlier about walking the talk. Yeah, so I actually use what I said
Exactly.
to be used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here's just additional comments. Many leaders today are grappling with VUCA syndrome,
Mm,
and good blended learning program are scarce.
yeah,
Yes, I agree with you, and that's the reason why we are here.
yeah,
Palani and I were like, really advocating what blended learning is and
yeah,
how it is important in order to you, like, how you explain the ROI. It's kind of simple actually, but then a lot of company like are missing out on this, right?
yeah.
Just
Because we measure the wrong things, we end up doing the wrong things. The only right thing to measure for leadership is an exact and measurable change in the organization, not attending a course.
Yes.
Yeah,
And Prakash said, everyone knows everything.
yeah,
It's about
that's true.
demonstrating what we know. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that. And
yeah,
yeah, it's like really separating preachers between practitioners, right?
yeah,
Good one.
yeah, true. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
good analogy
yeah.
of F1, which
Thanks, yeah,
is a
yeah.
recent event here in Singapore. And Palani, what's your opinion on the merits of gender diversity within the corporation? And is gender diversity practice in your own company? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, I like to take this question. I tell you, we are very, very diverse
Mm-hmm.
in race, language, culture, and gender.
Mm-hmm.
And the ladies are instrumental to this event. They made
Mm-hmm.
sure I wore the right shirt. They made sure I went for a haircut. I'm not belittling this, but these are things sometimes guys don't pay attention, and the diversity of the gender works. In my organization, more than 50% are women. Leadership positions also majority are women because we are a learning organization and we have the benefit of their involvement. So I
Mm-hmm.
am a person who totally believes in gender diversity. So I have more daughters than sons, so we are also outnumbered in the family, right? So it is a very important thing, right? And I want to take that one question from Jaspal earlier. So I just saw
Let
flashing.
me just also,
Culture.
yeah. Let
Can
me
you
just
read the question? Yeah,
look for that again. We have like a lot of
yeah, just
Jasper
yeah,
City.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do find cultural backgrounds play a big role in attitudes leadership training? I totally agree with this. We've done culture work in many organizations. We've worked with the Ng Teng Fong General Hospital, worked with NEHS and many organizations. The culture set by the leaders attract the type of people who are aligned to the culture,
Mm,
and it helps to perpetuate that bonding and the DNA. So if the
mm-hmm.
culture is wrong, the business strategy is going to have a big challenge in execution. So I agree with you, Jazz, that yes, cultural backgrounds play a major part, and in the region it's slightly different, right? Asian culture is different from the Western culture, so we have to incorporate all this in the leadership, and that's why contextualization is so critical in leadership training.
True. Yes, exactly that. And I really appreciate this conversation and that we had like a lot of amazing audience here
Yeah,
live that are asking very difficult and important questions at the
yeah,
same time. I mean,
mm,
we've been hearing a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusions in
yeah,
these days because it has been highlighted how important it is, and it's not
yeah,
really just so much about the gender, but actually the effect of diversity, equity, and inclusions in your organization, right? Like
mm,
how much perspective. And I was actually kind of like surprised initially when I attended this or took this certification program on basics
mm,
of AI, like how diversity and inclusions is also there, and because it's
yeah,
important, you're gathering data from people, and for you to be able to serve your client
mm,
at the best possible way, you have
yeah,
to consider different like perspectives, right? And
correct,
again, like what you've mentioned, like how it's helping like your all
The
the within
image and the way we present ourselves. Yeah, we pay more attention because of them, because guys really sometimes don't care. Right? We just pick a shirt, we
exactly.
put it on. We don't go match colors. And so when I come to the office, sometimes I get ticked off because it affects the branding image. So now I'm a bit more careful about it.
Exactly. And also the culture again, we can't agree more how culture is
Yeah.
important, and that affects. I mean, you've defined leadership around vision, purpose,
Mm,
and collaboration, right? And that's actually about also part of building the right culture within the
mm,
organization,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because everything, all the effort that you will create or you will do in your organization will also have a return of investment in
Correct.
the
Correct.
end, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not just about learning, but again, like doing it and having it visible within the organization, right? And there's
Correct.
more comment here. Let me see. I have always advocated physical fitness and mental health awareness for leaders. What are your thoughts on that, Palani?
Okay. This is Jiraj, that's a very good point that you are highlighting, because this is often overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Fitness, both mentally and physically, is crucial for leaders' performance. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because leadership is full of stress.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to withstand stress is directly related to mental and physical health. So, being physically and mentally healthy, having a good regime for eating, exercising, and sleeping adds a certain dimension or discipline that will also spill into the leadership. And if you're going to lead from the front, like I said, when I saw Gandhi and I said, this is what leaders do, then if you are not healthy, if you're not fit, then it's very difficult to get your team to stay healthy. Not because they need to perform, but because they need to enjoy the quality of life. So physical
Exactly.
fitness and mental health, extremely crucial. Gerard, thanks for pointing that out. People often don't get enough time to get out of the chair, but please do. That is very
Yeah.
important.
And I would say that it's a silver lining that we all got from the pandemic as well, because this has highlighted how important our health is,
Correct, correct.
in order to like live the life that we want, a
Yeah,
balanced life that we want, right? So thank you for that question, Jayaraj, and for beautifully answering that question, Palani. And I remember that conversation also I had in a recent talk I did around does leader have like the capacity to have that balance as well, or
mm,
that does have the right to have that balance? Everyone does, especially
yeah,
leaders, because we've been driving everything, or the directions and driving the culture and all those stuff within the organization. So it just makes sense to take care of our health as well
yeah,
and to
sure,
have that
sure.
balance, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Palani, please share your views. How do we create a momentum with an organization to build a culture we need? Wow.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the question, Prakash. You obviously touch on a very important point. Culture and momentum are actually synonymous, because culture is what we live. It's not what we preach. It's not what we espouse. We live it. To live it, the momentum always starts with the leader. That means we need to live what we espouse. If we
Mhm.
say we will do something, we need to continuously do it. As humans, sometimes we fail. And when we fail, the culture must be there to allow somebody to say, hey, you're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And you need to take a step back and say, yes, I should have done better. And then that builds the momentum, because people know that in striving for that culture, it's okay to fall, but let's all get up together and support each other to achieve it. And that's how the momentum moves.
Yeah, we are having more questions and comments here. So before we proceed to the next question, let's just finish up to here, up to
Yeah.
Rachel. And this question, I'm not sure if you'd like to add
Okay.
on or answer.
Okay.
Palani, your OTR is like a framework for transformation. Is it like a
So
straight?
So this is a good point, and I want to thank you for that question. What I think from my experience is leaders cannot be divorced from transformation.
Mhm.
Organizations cannot be divorced from continually transforming. And the only way to make it is not to see the distinction between leadership and transformation. You may
Mhm.
call it a framework, you may call it a way of leading. To me, it's a Siamese twin that cannot be separated. A leader who cannot transform, or transformation that doesn't have a leader, doesn't make sense to me. So
True.
that's why we built this whole concept of leaders in action as being transformation. Transformation is not a one-time exercise. It's not an exercise you engage a big consulting company to do this. It's something leaders do on a daily basis. So is it a
Exactly.
framework? Yes. Is it a way of living for leaders? Yes. Is it leadership? Yes. That's how I see it.
And that's, I guess, the reason why it's kind of difficult for me to separate leadership and transformation, even
Yeah.
on my title. Even people would make a comment, it's too long. But I
Yeah.
said, like, it has to go hand in hand, right?
Correct. Correct.
Like what
Correct.
you've said.
Correct.
And here
Yeah.
are more comments. Leadership is in the current working environment is
Hybrid.
also posing new challenges. Yes,
Yeah. The next
true.
normal challenge.
Yes.
Really, we haven't found the solution for this yet. Uh, we are also grappling because if you don't offer hybrid, people look for other places where they offer a hybrid. Hybrid
Mm-hmm.
poses a challenge. Human beings are social animal, so we try to do small things like bring everybody back once a month to celebrate birthdays. It's cliche,
Mm-hmm.
but let me tell you, during the COVID virtual time, it became a lifesaver because that was the only time we could come back together. We did virtual Zoom birthdays because that was the only thing we were allowed. Now we do physical birthdays and people are happy to come back. This is how we are managing. We do not know the formula yet. We'll figure it out as we go along.
Yeah, true. And hybrid has been like something
Yeah.
that, a lot of us have been challenged. But
Yes.
I
Correct.
mean, I think like we've been doing quite well. Like,
Yeah.
with all these interventions that we have been doing, this has been helping us in terms of
Mm.
like how people can actually collaborate and work together to address all these hybrid
Yeah.
challenges that we
Correct.
are
Correct.
facing
Yeah. Yeah.
together. And
Yes.
yeah, Rajesh Dilon, I fully agree.
Correct. Yes.
Team should invest some activity outdoor to also build the team synergy. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
That's true.
And
That's true.
Palani, could you share the qualities you look for when hiring people to join your company?
We use a simple cardinal rule. Will this person fit our culture? Because skills we can equip.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we decide. Do we feel connected with the person's value systems? If the values seem to be in sync, I think we will have a better chance of fixing a skill gap instead of skills are perfect, but there's a value gap because value gaps are very difficult to align. So, this is how we look at people. Will they connect with us and can we connect with them?
Wow, that's a great way to like assess how you hire your people, right? And again, it's all about, again, the skills is kind of easier to to inculcate rather than the attitude and the values of the people, right?
That's very tough, I can tell you that. Yeah.
So another question, how do you balance between transformational and transactional leadership types in these trying times?
Okay. So there are many terminologies, jargons, and categories for various things that we do. I'd like to assess leadership in terms of the value it provides to the team, to the organization, and to the community they are involved.
Mhm.
A transaction can add value, a transformation can add value. Just by labeling it differently doesn't change what the leader has to do. If anything they do don't add value, that's something they need to think about. Right? Rather than classifying leadership in different ways, I look at it in terms of the output of the leadership.
Hope that answers your question. And we have like so much more comment
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like our own content and question has not been filled, but I think these
Yeah,
are very relevant and important questions that we need to answer, as well as comments that our audience has been like
yeah,
contributing in this conversation. So thank you so much. Yes, cross cultural awareness is
yeah,
important.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Palani. There are
You know,
thank you already. And yeah, Rajesh. Yeah, excellent point on leadership is visible.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
At this point, I like to say many of you are connecting through LinkedIn as well as
and
YouTube and all
YouTube.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland is doing a great job bringing this kind of conversation so that everybody can benefit. And sometimes we are not able to address everything out there.
Mm-hmm.
What I would suggest is this, with Maryland's permission. I'm very open for all of you to link in with us in
Yes,
LinkedIn. We can
yes,
continue the conversation there. We are happy to share our thoughts. This is not the end all of the discussion. I
exactly.
don't post as regularly as some of you here. I'm learning to do that. And I will
Mm-hmm.
share this topic, this video, snippets of it in the YouTube. You will be there in
Mm-hmm.
Maryland's channel. But I
Mm-hmm.
hope that we can continue the conversation as a community, because
True.
ultimately, what leaders do in organizations will and must transform to value added for the society as a whole in terms of employment, income, happiness, satisfaction in lifestyle. So that's what we do. We don't just come into office, stay in the office and do something. We actually impact the society. And if we can all be a community, discuss, share, and do this, I'm happy to share my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Not a problem at all. So please feel free to connect with us after this through LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
I'm okay with, if you're okay with that, Maryland. Yeah,
Yes, you're actually tagged in this live session, so you can always answer the rest of the questions. But I
uh,
guess before we proceed to the next question, I think this is a good one from
yeah,
Rachel. Please share your thoughts and experience on talent management and retention, which again is one of the top problems that you have
yeah,
mentioned earlier. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
please.
so okay. So in my limited experience, I've had good people join me. I've also had good people leave me. My guiding philosophy has always been, if somebody wants to leave, my first question to them is, are you leaving for something better? Or are you leaving because you have an issue here? Because if you have an issue here, I will try to resolve it. But if you're leaving for something better, I will help you. You use me as your reference. I will help you to do up your CV. I have no need for people to surprise me with a departure. My philosophy is, if I help the people who leave well, the people who want to stay will stay longer. And that has
Mhm.
worked for me over the years. So talent management and retention is not holding people back. It's about how we treat people when they leave. It shows people who stay that whether it's a place to stay or not.
Exactly that. And
Yeah.
that and so let me just go back to my question, and I think this
Mm.
is very important as well. I mean, we've talked about a lot on the problems that even our audience have asked
Yeah.
in this conversation. And so what do you believe are the important leadership capabilities or skills that you must have in this next normal to continue to lead more effectively?
uh, it's like what I said. You need to handle the three things: people,
Mm-hmm.
their mindset and culture, and the leaders who can tie all of them together. To be able to do this, create the vision, make sure they sign up to it, and it adds value to somebody else, or you're not going to be able to sustain it long term. The formula works around these three, four variables. You cannot go
Mm-hmm.
far away. The latest article in HBR will tell you a new way of doing this. It
Mm-hmm.
will say maybe increase the orange portion of the drink a little bit more than the lemon portion. But it's always orange and lemon in the drink. These are the three variables that is in the formula. And this
Mm-hmm.
is how I look at it. And this is how I tweak. Sometimes I do more of this, sometimes I do more of that or less of this. But this is how I experiment in terms of leading in the next normal.
Wow, that's really amazing. How you summarize it. Again, it's really important for us to take care of our people, as well as ensure the mindset, the culture within
Yeah,
the organization, and of course, creating more leaders, right?
yeah,
Leaders that can connect all those together, the vision,
yeah,
the purpose of the organization. So thank you so much for that,
yeah,
and that leads me to my last two questions for you.
yeah,
I mean, for those who still have like more questions or comments in on LinkedIn, on YouTube, we will get back to you
yeah.
after
Please,
this.
I will go through the LinkedIn also later. No problem.
Yes.
Okay.
You're tagged on all those, and also the links where to go. So Palani will sure be addressing all of those, and I'll be glad to also like respond to you based on
Yeah,
at least my perspective as well. So you have both, and so this is a very interesting and open questions. The last two, if
yeah.
you have a magic wand and can use
Yes.
it, what will you do with it?
Okay. I will go back to the way I have conducted leadership training before.
Mm-hmm.
Until the aha enlightened moment, I used to do leadership training to meet organizational KPIs of conducting knowledge based training. And technology also wasn't available at that time to do the blended that I have proposed and now I work on. I will always propose, if I had a chance, to conduct leadership training only with a measurable project as the outcome of the training program. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I think would have been my value added to my clients over time.
So more of like ensuring that the metrics are
Yes,
and
they
blended
actually
learning
do
are.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cooking class analogy. Learn how to cook, cook a dish, let people eat and say whether it's good or it's not so good. Yeah, that is what I think leadership training should be all about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, let me just summarize that. I hope I summarized that correctly. To go
uh,
back to your leadership development that you conduct and make it as blended as possible,
yeah,
and
within the organization.
setting the metrics as well or incorporated within the program. And I mean,
Correct.
even without the magic one, that's what you've been doing, right?
Yeah,
I
correct,
mean,
correct,
I'm sure even without that magic one, that's already Palani what you
right.
have been doing, what we
Yeah,
have been you know advocating to
yes,
the
correct.
organizations and the leaders that we help, right? And
Yeah,
so that leads me to my last question. If you were to ask yourself a question that
yes.
you can best answer, what would it be? And because you can best answer it, please do
Yeah.
answer it for
Okay.
us.
Okay. So my question would be this, and this has been asked by many people before. And my question would be, if leadership is so stressful, so challenging, why do you keep doing it? This would be my question. Okay. And my answer to that is because I wake up every day and I feel like moving from my bedroom to my living room because the people I work with are my family and community. It's about enabling them to pick up new skills. It's about enabling them to look at how they can work collaboratively together with
Mhm,
others, add value to the customers, to themselves, and the community. And this may sound like a cliche, and things are cliche for a particular reason, right? And
mhm,
the cliche is I actually like to see the growth in my team, and that's
mhm,
what makes it worthwhile doing it every day. So I give one example, but I have many other people who have grown through the roles to become who they are, including and up to telling me off. And that to me I see as a growth, because if they can tell me off and they know to tell me off takes a lot of supporting data and facts, then I know they have thought through the issue. So that makes it very good for me.
Wow, that's really amazing. And that's what leadership is for, right? It's really creating more leaders and creating
Correct.
more, helping your team to
Yeah.
grow, to
Confident.
develop to what
Yeah.
they ought to
Yeah.
be, right?
Correct. 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 So that makes it So that makes it really good. So when they are your family, they are your friends, their relationship, problems will always be there. There's no smooth and honky dory setting, but people work through issues. And therefore, every day when you wake up, it's something looking forward, something to look forward to, rather than oh another day drudging around. So that's what keeps me going.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And that's super obvious, like the way the our conversation went through. It's very passionate, and really we appreciate how inspiring, how empowering, how enabling this conversation has been, and
Mm.
very interactive as well. I mean, we
Yeah,
have
I
like
thank the audience for that. Yeah, you did
we
a
have
great
more.
job, Maryland. You did a great job.
Thank you. And you are so amazing, and I really learned so much from you. Considering we only had an hour of
Yeah.
conversation, we
Mm.
managed to not only answer the usual questions I ask, but also answer so much more questions from our audience. So
Yeah.
that's really inspiring. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
I'm
empowering
happy.
us. Thank you for inspiring us in today's session. Within an hour, you gave us a lot of enlightenment as well. So thank you very much, Palani,
Thank
for
you. Thank
joining
you.
us today. And
Thanks for this
again,
opportunity.
you're welcome. And before we end this conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Okay, I want to say thank you to everyone who made time for this, and I really appreciate your interest. I invite you to connect with me, with Maryland on LinkedIn. Let's have this conversation. You saw me having a few drinks. That's not coffee, by the way, water to keep my throat from being dry. But I'm happy to have coffee. I'm happy to have drinks, chit chat in my office, anywhere else, because this is a conversation that we should all have to share our experience. This is important. I'm giving an open invitation. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can continue this.
Yes, thank you so much. And I really appreciate Rajesh as well to, um, the effort. I
Yes,
mean,
Rajesh.
for acknowledging my effort in doing all this and having all this conversation, like what you've also just said just now, right? That let's continue to have this conversation.
Yeah,
And like we all, for sure, most of us would want to have like a better world to live in, and
yeah,
that, I mean, that takes effort, but we
yeah.
all can make a difference in our,
Yes,
in our own way, right?
correct,
So,
correct.
and again, I'd like to remind everyone who's watching us or who will be watching us later on a
Yeah,
replay that the richest investors in the world say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your
mm,
life. So with that, thank you so much again, Palani, for all the
mm.
inspiration, empowerment, and for all the experiences and lessons that you have shared today, and for generously answering all the questions that was raised by our amazing audience today. So thank you so much for that.
Thank
And
you.
we would like to leave our audience with
Thank
this
you.
quote that
Yeah.
if your action creates a legacy that inspires others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much again,
Thank
Palani, and
you.
thank you
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Yes, have a good day and stay safe, everyone.
Okay. You too. Bye bye.